Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub podcast,
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
and we are the Last Mile Prophets. And we're going to talk about the last mile, oddly enough, given the name of this video series. We're going to talk about the last mile. But there was an interesting example recently, Marek, of an Amazon driver, so someone driving an Amazon branded van in the USA, who just abandoned his van mid-route. So left it by the side of the road, half full of parcels, and put out a tweet saying, "I've left the van here, the keys are in it, do what you want." Which, yeah, boggles the mind. And yet, when you start unpicking this, you think, well, there's a whole, it's like, the layers of an onion, isn't it, Mark? When you look at some of these things. What was your immediate response when you heard about this?
I think the immediate response relates to the fact that Amazon doesn't necessarily treat its partners and employees as well as it treats its customers. So although, things like this happen everywhere, in many other companies, it's not just with Amazon. And it could be the fact that the guy's had a particularly bad time. He has some problems of his own. And it also could be the fact that when you're having several thousand people driving throughout the country, or maybe even tens of thousands on a wider scale, someone is going to have a problem.
That's right. So it's like the classic thing of, if the postal operator handles 1 million parcels a day, it's almost inevitable that a small number of parcels will be delayed or missorted or whatever. Things will go wrong. So if you have a large enough driver fleet, things will go wrong. Yet you don't seem to read such a, not blatant, what's the word?
This is an extreme case, and obviously the guy was really frustrated about something. I don't know the details of the story, whether it was just Amazon or other things. The fact is, however, that Amazon doesn't look after its people as well as it could, in my view. And I think this is going to be something important for the future. And either AI and AGVs and machines will take over, which would work very well for Amazon because that's the sort of organization it is, or they're going to have to practice what they preach, because they talk a lot about what they're doing for employees. And even when I was there were various surveys that in the morning on your handheld devices you get a question, is everything okay, and so on. But I can ask, are you okay, Ian, and then switch subjects, and that I'm not really very interested, or I can really show empathy.
There's also a degree of skepticism amongst workforces when they get these sorts of surveys. Let's just talk frankly here, Marek. If your boss knows whether or not, or your supervisor, whatever the relationship might be, if he or she knows that you are completing the survey, they might be able to work out who's given what answer. Well, you don't want to do anything that could be a career-limiting move, do you? So a lot of the time, I have a certain degree of skepticism when it comes to internal surveys that say that such and such an employer is so highly rated by its own staff. Just the same, what we're also seeing is that Amazon here is using a contracted workforce where it's a couple of steps removed from the driver. Now, I'm obviously a big fan of contractors, and I think they do a great job. My issue is when you get too many steps removed from the company, whether it's a post, a private carrier, or in this instance Amazon. When you get too many steps removed, there's always a question in my mind: how much money is really left for the person who's doing the driving? So we've talked about the how Amazon treats its staff as one on the one hand, but I'm pretty confident from my discussions with a range of people around the world that Amazon's very focused on driving down cost in the last mile. And so that has to be a factor in this as well.
I think that one of the big issues is this subject of reclassification. So it means that you have to be very careful. The more that Amazon, or frankly any other carrier or e-commerce carrier, the more they interfere with what their subcontractors do, the more risk they have
of having an employer-employee relationship.
Exactly.
And I understand that's what they were trying to avoid. There's because of for whatever reasons.
And Ian, and what's important, unless things have changed, when I was around at Amazon, we actually sought to ensure that the guys physically delivering parcels got a good deal. to avoid unscrupulous subcontractors.
Because there's been a few instances over the last 12 months, been widely reported in a number of online journals talking about about Amazon's relationship with its contracted drivers workforce. Now, Amazon's response has been over recent months, well, those are all instances that happened 12 months ago, 18 months ago, because there was a famous case that you might remember, Mark, of a lady who was run over by an Amazon subcontractor and died as a result of the accident. So all the stories and controversies that kicked off. But Amazon's line over recent months has been, that's in the past. We're not like that anymore. Nowadays, we have a better relationship, whether it's a financial relationship, contractual relationship, management relationship with those subcontractors, etc.
Well, I only partially buy that, Ian, for the reasons we've discussed. First of all, Amazon has to be increasingly more careful about that relationship because it has to be arm's length. So that means there are things they can control and things they can't control. Number one. Number two, capacity is an issue. So there will be continued pressure to deliver more and more. And for those reasons, I think that, of course, some things can be done and you can seek to enforce in your SLAs with your subcontractors that they treat employees well and so on. But there's a limit to what you can do. So I think maybe it is getting better. Certainly systems will be able to support drivers to deliver more successfully, and things like out of home, my favorite subject, make it easier. Having said that, I don't imagine that it's going to be, perfect from day to day because of the fact that Amazon can't control it directly.
Well, everybody, comment below. Let us know what you think. Is what happened in the US, this particular example, a one-off? Is it indicative of something bigger? Is it just a risk you have to run when you're managing a workforce that might be a mix of employees and contractors, or even purely contractors and subcontractors and so on? Leave your comments underneath. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of comments from our viewers on this one, Matic. Any final comments before we wrap up?
Yeah, what I want to say is that we don't just make it look like Amazon has an issue. With growing capacity, there are other companies who are much more employee-centric. So DPD in the UK had a problem. They had bad luck a couple of years ago tragic bad luck, where one of their drivers, I believe, had a heart attack while on a route, and he'd happened to have a very bad day then, and it was a subcontracted driver. So, and then there was a big palaver. They finally had to offer all drivers, if I remember correctly, the option of becoming employees on perhaps less attractive terms overall, but with an employee contract. So it's not just Amazon. I think we need to say that. It's the last mile overall.
And that's why I wanted to emphasize that this is not purely an Amazon thing when it comes to managing the relationship with contractors. It is across basically any network, private or even the government-owned postal operators that have that relationship. How do you manage it best? I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'll be very interested to see, using the word interested over and over here, Mark, but I really would like to read the comments from all the viewers, what you think. What's the best model? How do you manage it? Share your comments below. I know there's going to be plenty of people weighing in on this one. Marek Rajecki from Last Mile Experts, thanks for being part of the Last Mile Profits today.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed this episode of The Last Mile Profits.
Make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button and also the notifications bell so you get a notification every time we add a new video to this channel. Look forward to sharing more stuff with you on The Last Mile Profits.